welcome to our Nonprofit Connect today. For those of you who haven't participated in one of our Nonprofit Connects before, this session gives us the opportunity to meet and learn more about a nonprofit doing amazing work for women and or children in our community. And I have the pleasure of sitting down with Christina and Teresa from Joya Child and Family Development. I'll just start off introductions. I'm Geneva. I'm the operations manager here at Women Helping Women Fund. And I'll throw it to you, Teresa. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I am Teresa Conway, and I am the capital campaign manager at Joya Child and Family Development. And also my most important role, I think, is I'm an alumni parent. My son attended here.
Christina.
I'm Christina Fox.
Christina.
I'm a registered nurse and the program director at Joya Child and Family Development.
Great. Okay, well, let's just start really simple. Joya has this amazing history in Spokane that's decades old. So can one of you just tell us a little bit more about Joya and the work that you all do?
Yeah, I can tell you. So Joya began in 1960, and it was started as a Spokane Guild School and Neuromuscular Center. And it was a group of women that came together, and they didn't have children with disabilities themselves, but they saw that there was a need for respite care for parents who did. And so that was kind of how we started. And over the years, it has evolved into a pediatric therapy center. And the reason that we are Joya Child and Family Development now after rebranding is because we wanted to shift the focus just from the therapy that we provide to really all of the services that we provide that encompass the family. So we provide pediatric therapy, so physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, special education, and other support services to any child in Spokane County whose age is birth to 3 that has a developmental delay or disability or is at risk for a developmental delay or disability. And we kind of start by just any child that's referred. It could be from a medical provider, or a parent could call and have a concern. And we do a full developmental evaluation on every child, looking at all areas of development, and come up with a very comprehensive service plan for that family. And it meets their needs, anything from helping them with, housing and healthcare, in addition to the services that their child receives.
We were so lucky to have Joya as one of our grantees kind of this year. We're just finishing up our fiscal year. Joya received funding for family resource counselors. So Teresa, can you talk a little bit more about the FRCs and why they're so important?
And first and foremost, thank you so much to the Women Helping Women Fund for choosing us as a grantee this past year. What I love about the work that you do and the women that created you, I see that parallel from this time in Spokane when the ladies of the guilds came together to start what we do. It's just these women volunteers who saw a need and came together to do great things. So great history in Spokane with that. So our application this past year, and Christina can double up when I'm done here because she works very closely with them, but our family resources coordinators are really the glue, I think, of the operation, having been able to see it both as a parent and as an employee here. But they are the people, the social workers, in some cases, pediatric nurses that are the first contact with the family. So they will, when we do an assessment, they will be present with whatever therapist we need to kind of first set up the plan for the family. And each family gets an individualized family services plan. And all the acronyms that are in the plan. Did I get it right, Christina? I have SP, and that really maps out what a family is going to work on together to help their child reach their greatest potential before they head off into preschool. So they work with families to connect them, not just to our services, but the one thing that we found out during COVID that was so critical is that families were really left, all families, I think, kind of treading water. So in many cases, it was families contacting us, not just for, helping us connect them with telehealth and the services that they need, but, food insecurity and clothing and any basic need. During a normal time, we would have resources in here. We have, we're always connecting families with equipment or anything that they may need on a very personal level, like people who didn't have a vehicle to get somewhere, or their washer and dryer broke, and just they were the glue that were really connecting families to services. And so that's what they do, and that's what the support from Women Helping Women Fund this past year was, our Family Resources Coordination Program. Christina, was there anything that, I'm sure I didn't touch on everything, but
just from the family side, we really think of our family resources coordinators as like the hubs, and everything else is like spokes on the wheel. And so our family resource coordinators are there to facilitate the child receiving the services they need. And then they help with scheduling. They help, some of our families end up receiving services from maybe 3 or 4 providers. And they help with to monitor those services, make sure that the family is getting what they need. And then they review services periodically for every child to make sure that our services that we're providing really align with what the family's goals are for their child. So these aren't plans that we develop alone. We develop these with the families at the table. So they really are that, that one point of contact that a family can go to for anything that they need.
Yeah, that one point of contact is always really important, I think, so parents don't feel overwhelmed trying to access a bunch of different resources. So I remember Joya was my first site visit when I started here, and I remember Tracy telling me all about FRCs and just being blown away by what they do and how they are connecting with families and creating that like personal relationship with them, which is so important when you're receiving health and trying to incorporate the whole family. So I was just amazed by that. I think when people hear therapy and services and sometimes multiple providers and things like that, people think, wow, that is probably expensive. So how does that work at Joya, and are services accessible to anyone?
I can speak to that. So at Joya, we do serve every family regardless of their ability to pay. So we bill any and all medical insurances if families have insurance. If they don't, then we can help them to access health insurance. But we start by billing health insurance. And then if families have copays and cost shares that are above and beyond what they can afford, we have a couple of options. So first, we can look at a sliding scale. And if that still becomes a cost prohibitive for a family or burdensome, then we have what we like to call our uncompensated care fund, which is really what our fundraising team does each year so that families don't have to worry about these services. Some of our families, they might have a parent or guardian who's given up a career so that they can stay home with their child with special needs. And so it can be very expensive to care for your children when they have equipment needs and medication and appointments. And so we want to be there to help in whatever way we can. So we help families access funding sources if they have an equipment need. You know, maybe there's a family who needs a wheelchair and insurance won't cover it. And so we make sure that we can get them connected to whatever they need.
That is amazing because we all know healthcare is not always the cheapest thing or sometimes the most accessible. So yeah, it sounds like the team over at Joya is just ready and willing to help with anything you could ever possibly need, even just beyond health services. So that is amazing. So Joya really focuses on the early intervention, birth to 3. And why is that so important? Like that stage is so important to kind of intervene early.
The child's brain undergoes an amazing period of development from birth to 3. By the time a child's 3, their brain is 80% of adult size. By the time they're 5, it's 90% of adult size. So there's just this real rapid period of growth. And when a child is in that birth to 3 phase, their brain is making over 1 million neural connections a second. It's just on fire, learning and growing. And so if a child has an injury to a part of their brain, or if they have a developmental delay due to maybe a genetic disorder, or maybe we're just not sure why, the brain is really plastic during this period and can create new connections. So the brain can actually develop new ways to learn. So that's why we like to kind of pour on the services there in the beginning in that birth to 3 realm, because eventually it's a use it or lose it. So if you're not using these parts of your brain, then as we age, it's just kind of, we lose that ability to learn the same way that children do. So We focus on birth to 3. As soon as a child turns 3, we make sure that they have the supports they need to transition to maybe the school district or maybe to another therapy provider if they need continued services. But we just you focus on that range because it's where we can make the most impact right now.
Teresa, I think you can, as an alumni parent, I think you can probably speak to this, but I noticed that Joya talks a lot about helping families become advocates for their children. So how does Joya help facilitate that, and how has that transformed families that you guys have seen?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that I did not know coming into this. Most parents, when they connect with us, you're at a really, really, we say dark time. It's true. It's 9 times out of 10, you've received a diagnosis maybe you weren't expecting, or you don't know what to do or where to turn. And we're very fortunate in Spokane with the medical community that we have, and our personal experiences that we were referred directly from Providence Sacred Heart Children's Hospital, and once we got here and we're started on our path through what we just talked about with the FRCs and getting our plan, it's just this cloud that lifts from you because you're like, okay, there's a plan. I know how to do this. But I think most importantly, it's how you're greeted and how you're treated. I always like to tell people I felt like it was one of the first times I wasn't greeted with "I'm sorry," because in the case of my son, who was born typical and everything was groovy until he got sick at 3 months. Everybody thought everything was okay, and then his diagnosis it was a brain malformation, and in addition to a rare chromosomal abnormality. So there are things that sound really awful, and family, even people really close to you, don't always know how to act, and through no one's fault to their own, because I used to do the same thing. But when we were here and you first meeting with a therapist and everybody's really happy to see you, and they're happy to see your child. So I think that's the first thing, is that you get to, in your mindset, return to a place of that, this is my child, who I love, and everything's going to be okay somehow. So I think originally you're really focused on figuring that piece out in treatment, but over time, you learn how to navigate many of these systems that you will have to navigate, whether it's when you leave here. The most critical thing is the work that's done here to connect your child to services after. And in our case, that was Spokane Public School District. You get to really sit down with a team, help transition well to the public school system. So that's the first time you're kind of learning about what to do. You're connected to parents who have been ahead of you in a similar situation, who have maybe navigated the world of, DDA and getting services for your child beyond here. And so it's slowly but surely, all these things that seemed really hard to do, there's someone who's been trailblazing for you. And I like to feel like I do that now for parents who are on the other end, who are sad about moving on, and looking at it as it's a good thing. Your child's growing, your child's learning, it's the next step. So you just learn, every step of the way. We listened to a parent the other night talk about, their child is 21 now, and just that next step with commencement and all these things you never thought would happen. And then, how your child's services change. And it really does start here, I think, by people having confidence in you and giving you those tools to understand that, it's not how you thought it was going to be. It's different, but it's still wonderful. And there's so much support if you know where to look for it and you have some help.
Yeah. Just a bunch of people wrapping their arms around you and saying, it's okay, yes, yeah, exactly. This wasn't what you expected, but we know what we're doing. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes just that knowledge of being like, yes, okay, like I'm not the first one to go through it. They have a plan for me and I can stick to that plan. There's something comforting about that, I think. So.
And they really stick with you. As Christina said, we work, we consider we're a partner in this community with so many other wonderful organizations, and we, we're constantly partnering, and we stay with you all the way. For life, really. Our former executive director used to say it was a lifetime guarantee on our services. And so you'll see people, like I said, the child who just turned 21 and as they go through life, they always come back to us.
It's amazing. Love that. So one of those things about Joya that I really love is this like idea that no child is limitless. And that's a really big thing for Joya. So how does your team bring that mindset to just the everyday into every family and every child?
We don't put limits on what a child can do. So often when children come to us, they've received a diagnosis and they may hear things like, your child won't walk independently, or your child won't be able to ever eat, without this feeding tube, or they sometimes hear all the limitations and the things that their child won't do. And what we try to shift to when children start with our program is just potential, that they have endless potential. We don't know what they're going to do. So we just want to meet them where they're at. We want to help them along the way, and we don't want to put limits on what they do. And I think when we can give back sometimes to parents what they feel might have been taken away with their diagnosis. And so we give back hope. I mean, that's, and then we get to be with them when they, achieve those milestones and things that they didn't think their child would do. It's the most amazing part of what we do.
I love that they get to come in without any expectations or, feeling down on the diagnosis or anything like that. And I think that obviously creates this like mindset of, yeah, we can do anything. It's going to be okay.
And we want to achieve their goals. We want to achieve the goals that they've set for their children. And those might look different than goals that other people have for the child. And yes, if we can focus on their goals and they see success that way, it just makes such a difference.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Teresa, you spoke to this a little bit, but I know when we brought Joya on as a grantee, our team here just saw this like amazing community support all around Joya. If we posted anything about Joya, it had like so many more likes and shares. And it was just this like, wow, they have just this amazing network and community support. So I know that you spoke about it a little bit in your experience, Teresa, but how have you seen other families keep coming back and staying involved and helping other families and helping your work, helping development? I know you guys have that big penny drive every year. So how is that, I guess, how does that community keep showing up for Joya time and time again?
I think it all starts with, when you're first here, it might be hard to volunteer or help out. And that's how I felt. But as we were aging out and leaving the program, and we had a little better grip on everything, we wanted to give back however we could, because we fell into that category where even with insurance, we ran out and we needed help for uncompensated care. So we wanted to do what we could. So it started with being, families are asked, would you be a spokes family? When schools are in session, I had mentioned when we were talking earlier that our penny drive, a huge component of that are the penny drive presentations in the school. And those are really about education and awareness. So I have several families that will come back with their children and they go into the school and they introduce their child and they just share their story. So that's one way that families kind of get reconnected after the fact and then stay involved is sharing their story. Volunteering to help out, as you mentioned, the actual penny drive day. In a normal year, we would have 13 sites around Spokane and you'll see volunteers out there waving signs and that takes a lot of manpower. And that's a way that families can give back that doesn't involve anything financially. It involves their time. We have events throughout the year that families help with, or just volunteers in the community. So we'll have, recently it was great. We had a team from volunteers from Hot Start Manufacturing, and they had a day where they were down because of some chipping. And they said, do you guys have something that we could help with? Well, they were awesome. They came out and our playground equipment needed to be painted. We're like, yes, do this for us. So working around the property, helping with those types of things. So people like to give back for those reasons. When I mentioned when we were founded in 1960, we were founded by these ladies of the guilds, and the guilds were service groups, and there were several different ones throughout Spokane County. And so by nature, they were all, they were just women of service who held all their own little fundraisers that all supported the then guild school. So we still have a lot of those women from the early days and the connections they had made, there are people that are part of that group that are still connected. And it's all because people saw the work that was being done and the impact that it was having. And I think that's why people keep coming back, is because being a nonprofit, they see that the work that's done and the impact. For me, it's that end result, that when a child ages out, either they've hit their age appropriate milestones, which means they're going to hit the ground running in preschool, or like in my own personal case, my son was so much farther ahead than he would have been without having received any early intervention treatment. So it's really, I think it's the results and knowing that you're making a difference is what keeps people coming.
Yeah. So we do have a couple questions here in our Q&A. So first one, can you tell us about some of the unique partnerships that you have out in the community?
Yes, that's one of the things I get just excited to talk about, because it's, I think, what makes us so we're so much more powerful when we work together. So for instance, we work with the YMCA. We have a partnership with them, and they allow us to use their pool for aquatic therapy for children. And some of our kids make so much progress when you get them in the water and get them in the pool. We partner with the Hope School, which provides services for children with hearing impairments. They have a teacher who we partner with to serve our children. We also partner with Lumen High School and Glow Early Learning, and we provide developmental screenings to all children at Glow that might have a developmental concern, and partner to provide services on campus for those families so that the parents can be involved in their child's therapy. That is one of the partnerships that is newer to us and growing, and we're just very excited about it. Another partnership that we have that is brand new is we have partnered with the Washington State School for the Blind and the Spokane Regional Health District. And one of our special education teachers has just completed her program to be students with visual impairments. So if we have any children we serve that have a visual impairment, and she's been serving those children at Joya, and now she has the capacity through that partnership to serve all children in Spokane County. So that's one of the things that we're really proud of that she's done recently. Gosh, Colleen or Teresa, there are so many. I don't know who I'm missing, but we partner with the universities. We see about 100 students come through Joya a year, students of higher education that are there for observations, internships, shadowing, practicums. So anything that we do there, social work, nursing, PT, OT, speech, special education, we're training students as well.
Yeah, I was going to say the higher ed piece. We just a couple weeks ago completed Eastern's physical therapy program. It's called PT Camp. We were allowed to get some students back in this year in person. It's kind of an intensive 2-week training, so the students can have hands-on experience with pediatric PT patients, and it's always a great opportunity. We're usually able to engage some of our alumni families, so they bring in their children who are a little bit older and volunteer opportunity to work with these students. So we have a very close connection to Eastern's PT program. 2 of our PTs are actually adjunct faculty there teaching pediatric therapy. So there's great connectivity there, as well as with the OT program, and then the speech language pathology program at WSU and Eastern as well. We're connected very well with them, bringing students in, like Christina mentioned. It kind of a hands-on opportunity, and just learning from actual little people as opposed to a model or so.
Yeah, connected everywhere, it sounds like, which I guess is the advantage of Joya having really deep roots kind of everywhere and addressing so many different issues, is that then you get to take those out in the community. And I love seeing nonprofits support each other too. So that partnership with the Y is so special, I imagine. So that is great. One of the questions I did want to get to, and it was in our Q&A, was, can you tell us more about the new building and how that's going to help you serve families? That's so exciting.
Yes, so that would be me. So we did, the building that we're in right now that I'm sitting in is on Garland, and it's the old Garland School. It's been here for a very long time. We moved into this building about 38 years ago. So the history of our program, when we first started as the Guild School, originally it was very, very beginnings in homes. And then we were in the basement of a church on Bernard, which the building is no longer there. It's just a rock outcropping now, but that's where we were for some time. And then as the program grew, because it didn't start like it is now, it's evolved. We had the opportunity to move in here when this was a surplus building. And then we've been here, as I mentioned, for, almost 4 decades now. And we've known over the years that, we had outgrown this facility. It just doesn't suit our needs anymore. And that eventually we would need to move out. Spokane Public Schools has been very generous with their space. I'm sure extending this lease many, many times, but it's officially up next June and they'll be taking the space back. So knowing that, we had looked for many years trying to find the perfect location where we could own a home of our own. And our longtime executive director, Dick Boyson, who retired a few years back, really wanted us to be in the U district for many of the things that I just talked about. Christina talked about a lot of our partnerships, but many of them are with higher ed. And of course, we've all seen the incredible growth in the university district. And then with the growth of the medical facilities in Spokane and the GU, UW medical partnership and that building going up, there's just a lot of opportunity there for collaboration and synergy on what we work on. So first and foremost, the main reason for moving was to have a space that we can own and would be our own, but we want to serve more children and families. And we do see children where they are. We see them in the least restrictive environment. So many cases that's in the home or in their daycare or wherever they are in the community. But we also bring children in center for that social component when they get old enough where they would be in a group setting. And there's just a lot of opportunity to see more kiddos and to also expand services that we provide to all families. All families can use help. Parenting, it's a real critical, skill that we're not necessarily born with. Support is something that we all need. So, so the new building is on Superior Street, right down from the Iron Bridge along the Centennial Trail. And we bought the land in 2017, and then we started our capital project a few years ago. And we're right in the middle of that right now, but we have broken ground because we need to be out of here. And so that facility, yes, it's very exciting, will allow us to expand and serve more children and families, but really grow some of these partnerships that we've talked about. And I don't think we know what the future holds. We hope that by being there, there's an opportunity to do more research in collaboration with universities and work more closely with them, and just become a real hub for that type of early intervention work for training and for research.
Yeah, that's great. I have so many more questions and I love Joya so much, but we're running out of time. So we'll just do one last question. What gets you really excited about the work that you're doing, and what is just kind of the most exciting part about your role and what you've experienced in your time at Joya?
I talked a little bit about partnerships. I think that's one of the things that gets me excited, but I also, through this pandemic, it's forced us to provide services in a different way. We had to provide services virtually exclusively for about 4 months. And then we had very limited in-person services. And since May, we've moved back to in-person. But I think it's been really amazing to see our parents be put in the position where they had to provide the therapy while somebody was coaching them through a camera. And I'm really excited to see what that does for outcomes for children in the future, for really highlighting how parents can be the ones that are providing the therapy with our guidance, and the carryover that will have because they have the confidence and the comfort level to initiate that and do that more with their kids. So really what the pandemic has forced us to do, I think, will lead to better outcomes, and I'm excited to see where that takes us.
Yeah, that is exciting. Teresa, what about you?
Yeah, I would just say that I'm really excited for the future. When I think of how we started and how we evolved and what that's going to look like 10, 20 years from now. There's so much opportunity. And I mean, why I come to work every day and why I do this work for me is very personal, but getting to experience what Christina was talking about with that and not knowing that prior to my son, how much impact we can have in those early years. That's really what gets me excited every day. And when we get to see these families on the other end, 20 years down the road, and they have, like I said, someone who just, walked in graduation at Ferris. And, that was a child who was always kind of being, pushed to the side. It's so great to see that and know that we're on the front end of really providing families with an incredible opportunity for their child. Again, we don't know what that's going to be, but there's something there, and if you have hope, you can go a lot farther than with none.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you for taking the time today and helping us just learn more about Joya. And yeah, thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.